Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. We are going to have a great show for you today on KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. Folks, let me first tell you, I hope everyone that's listening to my voice right now understand what is going on in America. And it starts not only on the political side, but the economic side, on every side. You know, before I came into the studio today, I stopped and do what's customary, right? I go ahead and get my gasoline, and it's 20 cents higher at Costco than I paid for it last week. The thugs are in business again. I know you don't like some of you. By the way, I am not talking about my great oil worker, those workers who work for the oil companies and all these other folks. Love you guys, but the corporate executives are at it again. I want to reiterate to everybody listening to my voice right now. There is no oil shortage. There is an oil glut. We are looking at market manipulations. I need everybody to understand that so that we don't continue to tolerate these prices. Secondly, I want to ask everybody who's listening to my voice to remember that we are a community radio station. And this station needs your support to stay on air, to provide you unadulterated truths. So please remember to call 713-526-5738. Hit the number 1 if you want to donate, number 2 if you want to come on air. But go to kpft.org and hit that great donate button and say, I want to support those people. I want to nourish that which is given me the wherewithal to be the right voice for you. And Work Your Stuff is right here. So, folks, please go ahead and give us a call or go to kpft.org. Now, I have a great guest in the house today. This guy is one of my heroes. During the necessary walkout of the Texas State Legislature, he was one of the folks who assisted in making sure, organized it in making sure it happened. State Representative Jon Rosenthal is going to discuss with us today shenanigans, election shenanigans, democracy, and more. Welcome to Politics Done Right, El Señor Rosenthal. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm doing good.
Well, before that, I like to introduce people properly. Let's tell our audience, because not everybody is in District 135. Some folks are listening from all over the country, and we want to let them know who you are because this has national implications. State Representative Jon Rosenthal visits with us today. He will discuss the state of our democracy and how election deniers are disrupting our democracy. This is not a Texas issue. It is a national issue that is fundamentally a clear and present danger. Representative Jon Rosenthal has been in Texas since 1979. He graduated from the University of Texas at Austin in 1991, where Jon earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering. He has since worked for over 25 years as a project manager, engineering manager, and subsea systems engineer in and around the oil and gas industry. Representative Rosenthal has been a strong fighter, advocate, and champion for better public schools and healthcare and ensuring we have comprehensive criminal justice reform across the state of Texas. Jon was honored to receive the Freshman of the Year award from the Nonpartisan Legislative Study Group, the second largest caucus in the Texas State House dedicated to developing mainstream solutions and advancing sound public policy benefiting all Texans. Sir, welcome to Politics Done Right again.
You're too kind. Thank you so
much.
That's
not kind. Would like to do things. But anyway, Jon, we were over at a club meeting a few days ago, and I saw you, and I am surprised that I didn't know that on December 2nd, you were challenged after you won your election by more than 6,000 votes.
That's
Somehow you were challenged. Tell us a little bit about that.
So in this case, the election outcome is clear, right? House District 135 was not a competitive district. Because of gerrymandering, very few districts in our House districts in our state are competitive at all.
Right.
And so this the margin was 15 percentage points. Mm-hmm. And And my opponent, who lost by over 6,000 votes, has brought a challenge to the election, and actually petitioned the Secretary of State to throw out the election and have a new one because he cited some issues with voting machines and voting locations in Harris County on Election Day, that a relatively small number of locations compared to all of them, and claiming somehow that more than 6,000 people who would have voted for him were denied an opportunity to vote.
But already the district, they gerrymandered the district. I mean, it was almost next to impossible for him to have won the district, absent your voters not showing up at all.
So first, that's true. And second, I mean, to be completely frank, this person did not run what appeared to be a serious campaign. Mm-hmm. It was largely self-funded, so he loaned his campaign money, got some signs, and put them up on the road and stuff. I didn't see a concerted, multi-layer effort like you would employ to try to actually competitively win a campaign. And so on our side, we spend all of our raise the money, spend all those resources contacting voters. We had paid canvassing, we had volunteers in the streets. I knocked on thousands of doors, and then we had internet advertising and direct mail and all those things that you do to try to run up the numbers. And in our case, I did not think I needed to run up those numbers to win our election. We were trying to turn out the vote for Harris County, for the state of Texas,
right,
so that we could be competitive in our county-wide and statewide races.
I wish all politicians thought that way, because it's so interesting that a lot of people think they're in a safe district, so they don't do a lot of work to actually realize that as if their district overperform, it actually help in the larger districts or in the state, at the state level as well.
That's right. And so polling showed that I should have been able to win this without spending a single dime, just because it's a deep blue district now. But that's not the point. And I think it actually is even more important in these safe districts for the representatives, for the people, for the candidates to get in the streets, to talk to the people, because you are in an election hoping to gain the title of representative. How do I represent people if I have not heard their voices?
I love that you said that. Let me put you and ask you to hold 1 second. Folks, please, this is a call-in show as well. Give us a call at 713-526-5738 and hit extension 2 so that you can actually get to the boards right away and be on air. 713-526-5738. I want to salute the folks in the studio right now. We have on the board intern, there's Kevin, and on the phone, the one and only Rod. And of course, our permanent intern is here. Who is our permanent intern again?
Rock and Roll Stu. Good afternoon,
Rock
Nick
and Roll Stu.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, especially since we're here to change the world, so we want to make sure that we just get things right.
Shall we give these other guys a chance to say hi?
That's the idea. I like to be very inclusive. So let's go ahead and hear from intern Kevin. Talk to me, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Hey, great. What are you doing in the house? I mean, I feel so honored to have a whole 3 people in the control room. What are you doing in there, Kevin?
Well, normally I'm on in the middle of the night here at KPFT, but we're trying to bring me into the daylight, and so I can start working here a little more permanently.
So you won't be a vampire anymore.
Right, exactly.
I'm wrong. You're, in addition to being a vampire, you won't be.
Yeah.
Okay. I get you. And by the way, come on in, Rod. Talk to me. How are you doing?
I'm doing better than I deserve, my friend. How are you?
I am doing fine, but you know what has to happen? We need to get you. You're handling the phones, and we don't have any phone calls yet. So I want to tell folks, let's put Rod to work. 713-526-5738, and there he goes. It worked.
Go.
But anyway, let's continue. Let's continue speaking about some issues here. So you now he's challenging an election. Isn't the election already certified?
The election is certified. It's a done deal. And but by bringing the challenge to the Secretary of State, by petitioning the Secretary of State, this becomes a formal proceeding. that has to go through the House of Representatives. So the Speaker of the Texas House has nominated a Master of Discovery, a special master, and this person will either will do some initial work and either throw it out on its face, or he could actually appoint a select committee in the Texas House of Representatives. We could explore this for the entire session, have a bunch of reps, and have discovery and documents and testimony and all that jazz. Really would spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of taxpayer money on a completely frivolous effort.
Now, let me ask you this. What would be the purpose? Is there somebody making some money on doing all this research? And let's be frank here, because a lot of times, a lot of these studies are done because my friend owns a consulting company who can actually be hired to go ahead and pull all the records in Harris County and make a few bucks on the state.
So I hadn't even thought of that, but it's obviously an angle that's it's a valid point. Someone might be making money off of that. I think the larger effort here is honestly the Republican Party of Harris County, Republican Party of Texas, going after us in Harris County. So this is a vehicle to attack our elections administration and our county government in Harris County, Texas.
It's interesting because you can attack Harris County as much as you want. You're not going to change the flavor of Harris County. And unless you take on some sort of an authoritarian rule on Harris County where you guys make a state law or something that says, okay, we as a state are going to take over your election to ensure that it's no longer free and fair election like it has always been. What's the point?
So that is the point, and that is the concern, is that they will set it to where Secretary of State will be responsible for running our elections in Harris County. Of course, we do not want that. We want to have free and fair elections administered by the folks who are closest to the people.
Let's go a bit. I have a lot more to talk to you about, but let's go ahead and bring Ray into the fold. Ray, welcome to Politics Done Right, my brother. How you doing, sir?
Happy Friday, Egberto, and I want to say shout out to Representative Jon Rosenthal. I'm a big supporter of yours. Actually, I believe I endorse you in an organization, so I appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You have a question for the state representative?
I guess, that news that I heard is kind of disturbing because, as we sit here on January 6th, which is Vision Day in my mind, one thing about our election that, that's the one thing that the poor and the working class have over the corporate class. And it's like the Republican Party, the power that be, they want to basically silence us as much as they can because they're just getting sick and tired of trying to even campaign for our votes. So they just want to basically cancel us out. And that's why they want the Secretary of State to not allow Harris County to be an independent county that counts our own votes at the county level. I totally agree 100% with that.
State Representative, you want to add something to that?
Well, I definitely agree with you, and I'm grateful for your support. And I hope that we can highlight this and bring awareness to it. And I think you're going to see, if you haven't seen already, there's the next layer of this exact same attack coming just today in the county judges race, where the Alina Hidalgo's opponent has announced that she intends to challenge this election, and the language largely reflects what my opponent has brought. So it's clear that this stuff comes from the same place, and it's a direct effort to undermine our elections and to undermine our autonomy in this county.
I want to add, Ray, that, when I saw John at an event on Wednesday, I believe, and he just came up to me and said, Egberto, you heard what happened, right? And I kind of felt embarrassed because it's something that I probably should have read in the Texas Tribune by now, that he was being challenged, because that happened on December 2nd.
That's right.
That the challenge occurred. And I was embarrassed because I'm supposed to know all this stuff, right? And he says, I'm getting challenged. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? How can a certified election be challenged? And he's like, oh, yeah. But the bottom line, Ray, and to the audience out there, is these guys are trying to have a material effect on our election so that whatever autocratic method they use, they can come into our county and say we're doing this because after investigating, X occurred. And what we have to do is not only John as a politician here in a district that spans Harris County, but we as the people of Harris County have to ensure that we do not allow the outsiders in the state, outside of our district, to have any attempt to come into our area and have any control over the election. They used to preach, Ray, and I know you recall this very well. One of the things that conservatives, the Republicans, used to preach is local control. It's always local control until we don't get our way. And you say, Ray?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like they always have these, minimalist rules, states' rights, and all of that type of stuff until it doesn't work in their favor.
Exactly.
And that's basically what they're seeing in Harris County, being what I call the blue shield effect. It's amazing. Our listeners come up with some of the greatest phrases. I like that one, Ray. I really love that one. Before I continue here, I want to call out all our folks out there on the internet. JP Wald, thank you so kindly for being here. Paul Fleming, thank you so kindly for being here. May Wood is in the house. Thank you so kindly for being here, as well as Lee Grant, who says, Lee Grant, not much, Lee. How are you? Well, I don't need to read that one. And Just Me says, Happy New Year to both us and the rest of the audience. Folks, welcome to Politics Done Right as usual. Ray, anything you want to say to the congressman before we leave? I mean, to the state representative.
State rep.
Hey, just keep fighting for democracy. And on our end, the people are going to be fighting with you.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your call, Ray. You have a wonderful rest of your day, sir. All right, folks. Look, before I get, the number is 713-526-5738, extension 2. Please call early. Don't wait till the end of the program like many of my great listeners do. Sometimes you kind of want to listen to the entire show and then you call in at the end. Let's kind of get things up front, because if you have questions for Jon Rosenthal about what's going to be occurring in the state legislature, which I have a lot of questions for him in that regard, you give us a call. There may be something you want to know that I don't realize you need to know. But I want to wrap up this on the election. Lina Hidalgo is getting challenged, and as you said, everything looks like it came from a boilerplate, pretty much.
Right, exactly.
And in coming from a boilerplate, it just means that we have powers that be. It just shows that these guys have always been puppeteered.
That's correct. It's a coordinated attack, and it happens at higher levels of establishment, not necessarily just in government,
right?
But the folks who are pulling the strings behind the government.
Right. Well, Just Me has a prescient statement. There is a majority of decent people in the United States of America. Yes, I acknowledge there is a majority of decent people in the United States. Unfortunately, the psychopaths usually have a louder voice. If you listened to the show a couple days ago, I explained about psychopaths in our country and that they have a large voice that we must control. Anyhow, before we get to the other caller, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what do you think are going to be the highlights of this year in the House of Representatives, in the State House of Representatives.
In the Texas State Legislature in general. So
yes.
I think that, of course, you have to be a little apprehensive. The Republicans control, and they were not challenged substantively at the state level. Mm-hmm. And so whatever they were doing before, they're going to come in believing that works for them. So we're going to see continued attacks on women's autonomy, women's health care, on the LGBTQ communities. We're going to see attacks on public education, the whole anti-CRT, which doesn't even exist. So you'll see more attacks on the culture war front. But I'm also optimistic because there's some stuff folks are talking about on both sides that everybody wants. And when you have an environment where the people can talk together and both sides want something, usually that's good for the state as a whole. So we may see pushes to legalize cannabis, to legalize gambling in the state, to and I'm going to be working on public education to affect change in the way that we do standardized testing of children. I think there's a coalition to be built around that.
What about better normalizing districts? In other words, a district that is rich with industry has a tendency to have more money for their district than one, let's say, in rural Texas. And it's amazing to me that rural state reps are so poor at wanting right-sized taxing and redistribution of resources that all Texans should be a part of to help their own communities that are struggling.
That's true. It's a good point. And you would think these folks would want equitable access to benefit, equitable access to funding. I just saw a report today where a record number of rural hospitals are in danger of closing in the next year.
Brother, we spoke about that 2 days ago. I mentioned Yoakum, Texas, but it wasn't the hospital in Yoakum, Texas. But a lot of hospitals have already closed because they haven't accepted the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. Is Dan Patrick going to do something about that to allow some modification to help Texans and not keep killing Texans as they are right now?
You would think that there would be motivation for that, especially since rural Texas really plays a large role in helping to elect these folks. But I don't think so.
Well, you know what? I tell you what I think, John. I think most people, and I'm coming to you, Jeffrey and Tony. I think most people in Texas just don't understand that their politicians are getting them killed. Because there's a study out of, I don't remember the university, there are over 2,000 Texans being killed every year because of their lack of insurance that the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act would have mitigated.
I totally believe it.
But what I'm saying is I don't hear that on TV. I don't hear it on ABC 13. I don't hear it on any channel. You are in the House. Are you going to shout through the rooftop to make sure that these mainstream media at least listens to you? You are here on independent media. You're going to get your hearsay to say, yeah, these guys are killing X amount of Texans every year.
Oh, yeah.
Can you shout that
I
to make
promise
sure?
you, this will be a conversation on the floor in the Texas House. It'll be a conversation in committees, and you will see representatives. I'll be one of them. John Busey, Donna Howard. We're going to have a number of state reps on the microphones bringing these bills to expand Medicaid, and these are the arguments exactly that we're going to
And what I hope that you all do, those of you representing us in the House and in the Senate, that you make, again, you're not going to get the full coverage at the mainstream media level because they are owned and bought by the pharmaceuticals, the hospitals, everything else. You're going to get it from independent media. My question to you is, will you guys be using independent media to really help get your message out?
I'm happy to. I don't know how that's coordinated at the level.
Well, you've started it by being here.
Okay. Well, if you come to the Capitol, I will spend time with you. I'll be on your radio show.
Sounds great. All right, let's go ahead and get Jeffrey in right now. Jeffrey, come on in. How you doing, my friend? Jeffrey, you're on. Jeffrey. Take the mute off, Jeffrey. 10, 9, 8, 7. Come on, Jeffrey, you're on. Is a volume level up for me? Okay, let's go ahead and go to Tony. Okay. Tony, you are on. Tony, you're on.
Hello? Can you
yes,
hear?
I can hear you, Tony.
Okay. I don't see a lot of Democrats doing what the Republicans do to us, and that's bait us and tell lies. And so I'm not recommending that we lie, but we could definitely bait them, especially like Trump, because he's a psycho whatever. We could have psychologists get together and figure out if you say this, he's going to do this. And so just off the top of my head, I think of stuff like Donald Trump, you better shut, or I'm sorry to say the name, so-and-so, you better shut your mouth. Well, we know he can't shut his mouth, and so he's going to keep on talking. And that's been part of his problem and why the public don't like him as much anymore, because he talked. They don't like every time he talks, they don't like what he has to say. So at crucial times, if we tell him to shut up, he's going to do the direct opposite, or at least get psychologists together, like I said, to say how we can come at him because he's, a lunatic.
You know,
Thank you.
Tony. There's a lot of merit to what you've said. I'm going to ask our representative here to answer, but remember, our representative is a politician. So while folks like me can say certain things, I don't expect the representative to say certain things. But representative, please.
Well, it's so. I think that the levels of government have very different dynamics about them. And so when you're talking about what's happening in Washington, D.C. and in the federal government, and if you're watching any of these here, the clown show that is the Republican House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., just trying to nominate and elect a speaker, it's a serious, it's really, how can I say this? Seriously crazy. It's unbelievable, off the charts. And so a certain type of messaging probably works better at the federal level, like you're talking about. When we get into the state house, it's a little bit different. And I feel like the environment there, the representatives my colleagues don't go after each other personally like that, like they do in Washington. And that helps us work together on the things that we do want to work together on. So it's a completely different environment in the state house. And then if you gotta look at the personality. So it's one thing if Egberto Willies or other personalities who are out there in the public sphere want to use more bombastic language. But for me personally, I'm actually an engineer from the oil and gas industry, right? I am not that bombastic a person. And so it's just not my personality to.
I want to add to that,
like
though, Rep. And I don't want, as being our representative, I don't want you bombastic. I want you solving problems, but I want that the people on the other, the people that are backing you to be telling the things as they are. I mean, you can go out there and say, well, you can go on the state floor and say, well, by us not passing the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, 2,300 people are going to lose their life. I am going to go out there and says, by the evil politicians who decided not to pass the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, they are killing people. That is what I think America jars Americans to see reality. Now, what you're saying with the civility that you must have as a good politician that you are, I understand that. But I think it is important for the folks that are in this domain to tell the truth. And the truth is that and this has nothing to do with the rep here, but the truth is that they are harming our Texans right now, and our rural Texans, the people that we need to get to. I said in the meeting on Wednesday, we have to love on our rural brothers and sisters, right? Because they are getting harmed. They are getting harmed by what's occurring in Austin. And we have to do that. We don't expect our politicians to do all the work. I think they have to have a supporting cast to get that work done. Anything else you want to add, Tony?
Well, no, I think you said it best, that it needs to be a collective, but there needs to be some type of organizing power to make something like this happen. Like every time the governor has a meeting, ask him what is he going to do about the XYZ amount of Texas residents that are dying because he won't accept Medicaid or the federal dollars. I mean, just like that's all we're going to ask him.
Right.
Everybody.
I got you, Tony. Thank you so kindly for your call, Tony. You have a great rest of your day. Alistair Waters says, I hope the next session pushes through the Medicaid expansion, but I'm truly pessimistic on this matter. I'm on it doesn't stand a chance at all.
Until the Republican leadership gets behind it, they're not going to pass it. And in the Texas House, they actually had a select committee in the interim here. So over the course of the last year or so, looking at ways to improve access to health care in Texas. And of course, it's even off limits to talk about the Medicaid expansion. So I don't expect.
What do you mean by it's off limits?
I mean, dude put in charge of this committee has been instructed, find out any way that you can do that's not a Medicaid expansion.
And what is the reason for that?
That is a good question. And I don't understand why the governor of Texas, the lieutenant governor, and the Speaker of the House are so against bringing our tax dollars that we've already paid out back to this state to help alleviate the massive problems with access to health care in the state. We are the worst in the union, worst in the union. The highest number of uninsured people, the highest percentage of uninsured people, the highest percentage of uninsured children in this state of any state in the union, the highest percentage of uninsured women of childbearing age.
Now, John, we should every single politician that believes in people should be out there saying that. And you are here on a program saying that. I wish we had more people just saying, hey, get us on air so that we can inform our constituents as to the reason why their aunties, their children are dying in the state of Texas.
So we were talking a little bit, just a couple of minutes ago, we were talking about decorum, but there's nothing to prevent us from saying, hey, you conservatives claim to be the party of pro-life. How come we're not protecting the lives of babies and mothers in this state by expanding Medicaid?
Oh my God, I'm glad that came out. I wasn't going to ask you to say that, but thank you for saying that, sir.
We should say it every day.
Exactly right. Wayne, let's go ahead to Wayne. Come on in, Wayne.
Berto, how you doing?
I am doing fine. Talk to me, brother Wayne. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing a little bit better. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, but wait a minute. Before you get started into politics, what do you mean you're doing a little bit better? Were you ill?
Yeah, I had a cough and then I'm touching pneumonia, but I'm getting better.
Well, I'm glad that you're getting better. We need you around, brother. Go ahead and make your case, sir.
Yeah, I want to talk about these Texas Republicans crying about the losing races here in the city of Houston. We don't vote for Republicans in Houston, and they already know that. So that whatever happened on Election Day, it wasn't because there was nothing that the Democrats did wrong. It was all Republicans. They're the ones that didn't want the people to vote.
Exactly. They're the ones who made things more difficult. You want to add?
You are exactly on point. And the language that these folks are using to challenge the election is they're saying that their voters were disenfranchised or suppressed, that there was voter suppression, when these are the people who actually passed the legislation. They're masters at voter suppression. It's what they do. So don't come at me telling me that you are complaining about voter suppression.
Absolutely.
And study whining about it. You lost, move on. Stop being a crybaby.
Exactly, Wayne. You're absolutely right, Wayne. Look.
Hey, the other thing I want to talk about is what's going on in Washington.
Oh, my God. He lost a 12th one, brother. He just got torn down a 12th time.
Yeah, but I want to talk about one of those things he said he was going to give to the people if he got elected, and that was this one vote to get rid of the Speaker of the House.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, why have a Speaker of the House at all?
Well, the way it works is as follows. What he means is that he'll get one vote to vacate, right? In other words, they can do one person can call for a vote. It doesn't mean that he'll win the vote. It just means he can disrupt operation by calling for a vote. The funny thing about it, it's interesting because all Democrats, once he calls for a vote, all Democrats will vote against the speaker, and it then only takes 4 Republicans to get rid of the speaker. The kicker is, can they then reinstitute a new speaker, because the dissension is going. I mean, they are talking about having a Congress that is non-functional. You want to add to that, John?
So you're exactly right about the way that this dynamic is playing out. But then you also got to look at this. This dude has been so spineless and been willing to give all these major concessions, but has not gotten a single vote in return.
Yes.
And so people can complain about Nancy Pelosi all they want to. That woman knows how to count votes, and she knows how to whip on an issue. And that's the thing is, if you're going to give the concessions, you only do that in exchange, right? You have to have this deal got to go both ways. So if this guy somehow ended up being the Speaker of the House, he would be so feckless and indecisive. They would be completely ineffective.
Absolutely. So Wayne,
I would say he would be gutless.
yes,
And there's a couple of other words I could use, but
we're on air, brother Wayne.
there's a couple of other words I could, but I'm not going to say them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
But spineless is the nicest one I can use on the radio.
Brother Wayne, I appreciate you. I appreciate your calling in as usual. You have a wonderful rest of your day, okay, sir? And have a great weekend. And get rid of that cold. All right, let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
A word from a voter to a possible office seeker.
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
not
wow.
We're not looking for you to be bombastic. You say you're not bombastic. That's good. Rush Limbaugh was bombastic. Half or more of the Republican roster in Washington, D.C. are bombastic. Boebert, Scott Perry, Matt Gaetz, Chip Roy, Andy Biggs, these people are not only bombastic, they are criminals, and they know it. When they're lying in bed at night waiting to fall asleep, they know by themselves that they have committed a crime. They know they have been directly or indirectly involved in insurrection against their own country, amongst certain others who have done financial crimes and all kinds of other graft and corruption that should be illegal. So what we want you to do when you're running for office is not to be bombastic, but be realistic. Be straightforward. Be candid. Be unafraid, unapologetic, i.e. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Rashida Tlaib.
Ilhan Omar.
Follow them in real time. Yeah, and answer directly. Bernie doesn't hold any punches. He asks you ask him a question, and he says no. He doesn't beat around the bush like the Bushes do. He's direct. That's what we want to see in Democrats. We're sick and tired of Democrats being like the centrists are, who take corporate dark and PAC money. They're useless to us. Eschew corporate money and raise your money the old-fashioned way. Earn it. Door to door, retail politics.
Let me give the rep a chance to answer you. Go ahead, rep.
Then you're free to be honest, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you so kindly, Johnny. You always leave it on the table, sir.
So you're, if I can speak to that, you're actually speaking my language, and I'm not a lifetime politician. I just got into this as an anti-Trumper, so I started as a political activist in 2017, and in 2018 is when I decided to run for office. Like I said, I'm an engineer from the oil and gas industry, and I'm a political activist. So while I'm diplomatic in language, I speak the truth to power, brother. And I will get unelected before I'll cross my own values. So you'll hear me be vocal on the issues. You'll hear me go after the folks who are being phonies and fakes. And you'll hear me about campaign finance reform for sure. I don't feel like I owe anybody anything except for the alliances that I have made. So if like I take money and support from labor, from the teachers, from the animal rights folks, from, a broad spectrum, but all people who I line up with. So if the teachers union rep comes in my office and says, here's a bill that's coming to the House floor and this is our position on it, I'll be like, I got your back. You're the teachers. You're the people that brought me here. That's why I'm here. But I'm beholden to those folks, and I'm beholden to the people in my community. So I'm also willing to cross party lines if it's for my community, for the people that I actually represent. And that's my job.
Which is that exactly right. Let's go to Ron from Liberty. Come on in, Ron. How you doing, Ron?
Hey, I'm doing great, Egberto. How are you?
I'm doing great. Ron is from Liberty. These guys have done some great work for the parties in Liberty. They are making sure to cede nobody at all. To cede the district to nobody. Come on in, Ron.
Thank you. I'm really interested in this topic. We in Liberty County, I think, are representative of some rural counties, if not all, in that we share a need for health care. We're blessed living right between Houston and Beaumont to have access to urban health care, both in Baytown with Anderson and Methodist, and Houston, of course, and Life Flight, and yada, yada, yada. Also, Beaumont has excellent health care. We have been blessed since the 1950s with our own hospital, and it's still running in the same building that was built in the 50s. Originally, we had, I'll not go into a long history, but originally we had a hospital named Mercy Hospital that was run by a Catholic nunnery, and it closed its door, and when it closed, a lady named Yeti Kirstings built a hospital, and that was then taken over and managed by a hospital district board. That board has been effective. Lots of community leaders have been on the board throughout the years. But today, radical Republicans have been condemning that board and fighting against an attempt by that board, a very reasoned attempt, given free land, to build a new hospital. And the bond issue was totally defeated.
Wait. Hold 1 second, Ron. Help me
Sure.
out here. This is all nonprofit, correct?
Yes.
And you acquired land and you're attempting to build a hospital with nonprofit dollars, true?
Correct. Correct.
And-
However, the hospital is now managed by a for-profit organization, but the entity, the hospital board, is a nonprofit.
Why did you
I don't
choose
know
to have a for-profit entity run? Weren't there nonprofit entities to run your hospital?
I can't answer that. I'm not on that board.
Gotcha.
But I know that it has been managed effectively and well. I know all the people that are in the executive level at the hospital and make it a point to know them. That's where I get my health care.
And what is the argument that the Republicans in your area are making why they're against building that new hospital?
It's primarily, and I mean primarily, a no new taxes argument. It's as simple as that.
Do you know
But
anything about
they
that,
elaborate-
Representative? Hold 1 second, Ron. I want John to chime in here, Representative.
So we're actually seeing the same thing. My area, District 135, is Northwest Harris County. So I'm on the northwest side of Houston, and we're all unincorporated. And so our fire department and ambulance service, fire department and EMS, is part of a special service district, emergency services district. And while this is run off a combination of our sales taxes and property taxes, the amount of property tax that goes to finance our fire department is a really tiny percentage of the property tax that homeowners pay. And we got some conservative right-wing nut jobs got themselves elected to the Board of Commissioners, which is basically a volunteer board that get elected, kind of like school board or
Right.
whatnot, something like that. And their whole platform was, we're going to give you tax relief. Well, there's not substantive ground there. I mean, the amount of our tax that goes for the fire department is a tiny percentage, and they want to cut that. But what is the result of that is that we won't have the funds for the fire department to operate fully and to expand into the areas where our population is just exploding out there. And so it's it sounds like an echo of what you're talking about, right-wing conservatives trying to make a political name for themselves about being fiscally conservative and we're going to save your taxes and no new taxes or whatever. But at the same time, they are screwing over our public safety and our health services.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I do think it is a something out of a playbook. I don't know whose playbook it is, but it is, I think, universal throughout the rural counties and statewide.
I agree with you, and
nationwide.
I think these folks are really. What they're doing is they're developing their backbench for political runs, and so these people are trying to line their resumes with conservative bona fides so that they can run
Right.
for different offices.
Ironically, when the fire department fails, when the hospital system in Liberty County, which is where you're at, Ron, fails, you would think that they would have a direct finger to point at those people who instituted those policies to prevent your hospital, to prevent the fire department from being funded, right?
You would think so.
So I mean,
Yeah.
so Ron, is this something that's been written about, spoken about, to put the fire under those particular Republicans? Because absent you telling me about that, I knew nothing about it.
Well, it's been publicized in a fine online magazine or daily called Bluebonnet News, which covers Liberty and, in particular, all of Liberty County, including North Liberty County, northwest Liberty County, up near you.
Is there a good write-up about it, Ron, that explains it in detail what's going on?
Yeah, quite a few.
Could you do me a favor, Ron? This is important because I think a lot of these things aren't covered by our mainstream media because, again, they are owned and bought. All right. So if you'd send me
Totally.
some links to info@politicsdoneright.com so that we can try to get some exposure in the blogging community, in the independent media community. These are things that we are here for and the things that we are supposed to do. And absent you calling in and telling somebody like myself about this, I would know nothing about it. So please go ahead and send something to info@politicsdoneright.com. And I'd love
totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree. And you've inspired me to write something up, to just stir something up in this off year.
Yes,
we need to revisit this.
Brother, let me tell you what else we have to do. And I spoke to this in the group. I told the group that I spoke to on Wednesday, we all have to become bloggers. And bloggers, and some took that aback. And I said, all it means is that in every article that you find online where it has a message box, you must put the message of truth in there. You must tell the story in there. And the great thing about the internet is then it indexes everything. So you have an exploded voice. Anything else you want to add, Rob? Please do send me the links. info@politicsandright.com. Anything else you'd like to talk about, Ron, before we move on?
One brief thing, and that is I'm looking at my tax bill for this year in light of the representative's comments. My total taxes are $1,030, and that's a good reason to move to Liberty, y'all. And my hospital district tax that we're so worried about increasing by maybe 20%, $42.
Wow, so it's about a $6 increase or so.
Yeah, right.
Wow, ridiculous.
So that's so I want to comment on this because you've touched on a couple of things. The first thing is these things that are happening in these micro spaces. So you're talking about a hospital in Liberty County. I'm talking about emergency services district in House District 135. And we can talk about the school board, on the east side of Houston, on the west. These are not isolated incidents. It's all the same thing. They're all connected. And what happens is mainstream media avoids some of them, maybe because of their corporate sponsors, maybe because these are too micro local to cover. But in the context that they're all connected, those things should be talked about.
Stitched together. And we need to stitch them together into a story.
Exactly.
Remember, everybody thinks story, right? So we have to stitch them together. So please, thank you so kindly for calling, Ron. Please remember to give us Go ahead.
One more thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With regards to similar situations, that is taxes, no new taxes.
Right.
The school district of Cleveland up in northwest Liberty County on US 59 is the fastest growing school district in the state of Texas.
Wow.
And needs expanded space. They're still using Quonset huts built in the 1970s and 80s.
Wow.
And a very reasonable school bond item for expanding space, expanding teachers, expanding supplies, expanding buildings was voted down. Same damn reason. Similarly in Liberty, the city of Liberty Independent School District, we proposed a school bond issue for developing the school district to upgrade resources, yada, yada, yada. And it was voted down. Same issues. No new tax.
Let me tell you something, and that's a lot of folks didn't vote their interest. Thank you so kindly for calling, Ron. I'm going to have to go on because there are a few things I want to close out with. Thank you so kindly for calling. Please send the info@politicsandright.com. Anyway, let me just say something here, okay? This is important. First of all, uh, those people who need you to be uneducated. In other words, they need you to be not so smart to understand how things work. Because you understand how things work, it means that you are going to vote in your own interest. You vote in your own interest, then our wealth is distributed more equitably. All right? So remember that. Remember what Ron said. Remember what each caller said today. And remember what our honorable representative have been saying here today. Folks, please remember the prison show tonight, Friday at 9 p.m. Check out the prison show today at KPFT 9 p.m. I know I have some time, but I want to thank Kevin and Rod and of course the one and only Stuart in the house who are keeping things going here. I want to say this because we have a politician in the House. Not only is he a politician in the House, but one that is next to the people. All right? How, based on your interaction with other politicians in the state, how best can we have people power and not corporate power? I know you don't speak the language all the time about corporate power, this as a previous oil man and all of that. I have no problem with the oil industry at all. I have problem with it being unequitable. How best for the people listening today to actually have an effect on the politicians that are going to be writing laws that affect their lives in Texas?
So it's a good question. I get asked this a lot. The very first thing that you want to do is find out who represents you. And you can do that. You can go online, just Google who represents me Texas. There's a little form you can fill out. It gives you all your state legislator, state senator, know who they are. And then let them know who you are.
All right.
Right? You can write emails to us. You can call us at our offices. You can come to the Capitol. Our doors are open. That Capitol building is your building. It's not our building. It's your building. And we are here to serve. And anyone in these positions who don't think that they're here to serve the people, they need to get unelected. So make sure that your voice is heard. No matter what the issue is, you can call our office. You can talk to staff in the office. If you call most of us, you could actually book time, come visit me in my office. I make time for constituents. When they come in, I meet personally with you. But make your voice heard. When we keep track of all that stuff. And so there actually is an automated system that we use. When you voice your opinion on an issue, we get lists of people that voice their opinion. So it becomes a hot topic if you and your friends. So get folks to call us, to visit us. If you write a personal note on email, like if you write to me, I'll respond personally. But make sure that you know who your representatives are, and then make sure you let them know who you are and what you want.
Look, folks, Americans still have one person, one vote. Whether you are the CEO of a company or you're an individual citizen, it is the CEO has enough advertising budget to make you believe that you are worthless, to make you believe that you cannot effect change. The reality is you have a vote, use it. And not only do you have a vote, now if you notice what Ron said, if you notice how he spoke about issues being voted down by the community, right? And you say, well, that's their vote. That's not their informed vote. That is their manufactured vote by a plutocracy who directs them as puppets. It is our responsibility as caring, responsible citizens of this country, of this state, of this district, of this county, for us not to look at those who may be voting against their own interests, but to engage those who are voting against their own interests with stories that explain, as Ron did, what the people will be suffering in his Liberty County by not having that new hospital built, which has been running, according to Ron, efficiently. Our honorable state representative here tells the story of the district, the fire district, that isn't going to be funded because of the false notion of a tax of a greater tax liability than would really be. John, you know how I end all of my programs. I always ask you to tell me something that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, something that you want to tell the audience that I didn't ask you to confer to the audience.
So the one thing you did not ask me on the show today was if I have a personal an issue that's dear to me personally that I'm going to be advocating for. Because while I'm a progressive and I'm going to have a full progressive slate, I have got a couple of things that I am going to try to forward in this session. The first is in public education, to separate the funding from the standardized testing. The dollars that go to your school districts should not be dependent on the test scores of children in schools. That's the first thing, and I'm doing that. I'm going to go on a crusade in the name of my deceased father, died last year, a lifetime educator, railed about standardized testing. And the other thing is to go after community violence. We need to establish a statewide office of community violence intervention and prevention to use data-driven solutions to help reduce violence in our societies and our communities.
Well, look, I want to thank you for being on Politics Done Right, because we couldn't do it with having state representatives like yourself who are out there really making a difference. You went from engineer to politician. I used to say a long time ago, engineers will always make great politicians, and the reason why is you do the numbers. And the fact that you do the numbers says a lot. So thank you so kindly for having been here on Politics Done Right. And folks, I want to say a hello and thank you for all our chat folks on the internet. JP Wall, Paul Fleming, May Wood, Lee Grant, Just Me, Alistair Waters, Diggs BTW, and Maywood, all the others. Thank you so kindly for the chat and listening and offering your advice. We are going to be out of here, but once again, I want everybody to realize nobody can empower you. You empower yourself. You make sure that you use that vote that still exists, and also make sure to educate yourself so that we stop voting against our own interests. We can do it. No despair. We can do it. My name is Egberto Willies. I want to thank Jon Rosenthal, State Representative of 135 in Texas, for being here with me. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.